Hello, YouTube. Yeah, I know. I got the get up on. I look like I'm gonna start screaming, Black Hawk down, Black Hawk down. Yeah, I know I look like that. But that's just the way it goes sometimes. But allow me to stop gargling about all of that stuff. Allow me to pose you a question. Say that you're an architect. You're a guy that needs to build a building. And you gotta figure out energy costs. What happens if, say, a goober comes along and says, yeah, I need a room of infinite size, infinite volume, infinite mass, and they all gotta have lights in the room? If you couldn't tell already, I'm talking about The Backrooms, the new movie created by by the YouTuber Kane Pixels, or better known as Kane Parsons, and it's his debut film in Hollywood, produced by A24. And let me tell you, it's good. It's pretty good movie. Me myself, as not much of a horror movie enjoyer, I would say I thoroughly enjoyed the movie a lot. I think that the movie did a fantastic job in its foreboding and creepy feeling, especially of the backrooms. Now, I'm gonna get into a little bit of spoiler territory, as it'd be kind of hard not to at this point. But I definitely would say the best way to experience this movie is going to the movies without any prior knowledge, or maybe you do have a little bit of prior knowledge, but going to the movie is definitely the best way to experience this. So we start out our grand adventure into the backrooms with our main character Clark, or Captain Clark, the owner of Captain Clark's Ottoman furniture empire. Now, Clark is a furniture seller, but he was an aspiring architect who wanted to build buildings, and I'm guessing skyscrapers and stuff. But it was told that he had a divorce with his ex-wife Barbara, who was going through law school and had to start selling furniture to get her through school and to provide a house over the head. This is an important plot point for the movie because it delves deep into Clark's psyche. But later on that, uh, second, and so Clark is having troubles with the store. It's very obvious. He's not selling anything. He doesn't. He tries to make an ad, but it doesn't. It falls flat on his face. It seems like there's not much going on, and he's just trying to do the best that he can. He also is also shown that Clark definitely has a drinking problem. So he goes to a therapist, the other main character of the movie, named Mary, and Mary tries to help Clark go through his divorce and his problems with the store. And it's as we're going through the movie and we see Clark's problems, he starts to talk about it to Mary, and Mary doesn't exercise. Very important to the movie. He does. She doesn't exercise where she wants to act out the scene of when Barbara and Clark got divorced, and this is a sort of foreshadowing for Clark's psyche and the amount of anger and resentment that he has. Later on, the later on in the movie, Clark keeps messing with a breaker because his one of some energy company man comes to the store and he tells him that there's too much energy being used and he's trying to figure out why the lights keep flickering. So he tells Clark that this breaker is goofy, that they need it might be probably the problem. And one night, the lights all start going insane. They start going sicko mode, gives a person epilepsy. So Clark decides to uh, get to the bottom. He goes to the basement of his store and finds the breaker and starts screwing around with everything. And eventually, he turns off everything except that in the wall, he finds a light that should not be there. And as it goes, you could probably figure out when he goes to the wall and he touches it, he falls through into the back rooms. Now, I'll say the best part of this movie by far is the backrooms and the feeling of the backrooms. The backrooms is massive, but also at the same time claustrophobic. It's it's foreboding. It's you definitely feel the liminal space that is the backrooms. The backrooms also definitely feels later on you'll see it feels alive. It feels like it's meant to torture you and hurt your psyche and punch down on you. And I think that is definitely the best part of this movie. The backrooms look great. They look fantastic. Later on, both in the widescreen, like the normal camera view, and also the found footage camcorder sort of view, where it's first person, it's grainy, it's definitely feels authentic and indie, and I think that's definitely a great way. Kane Parsons did a great job directing that sort of feel of the grainy indie, walking around the back rooms, getting lost, and everything of that sort. I Another great thing is definitely the sound design and the music. The music in this movie definitely helps with the ambiance of the back rooms. It feels creepy. It feels like it rises the tension in exploring the back rooms. It does not help you settle down when you're sitting in that theater seat. And in the back rooms, also the sound design, you will in that theater you'll hear creaking, moaning. You'll hear taps on the walls, footsteps, everything to make you unsettled and to make the back rooms just feel ever so more worse. And I think that's great. Another great thing about the movie is the actors. The actors definitely put everything into this movie. Everything they definitely put everything on the line. It definitely feels like when they're in the back rooms, especially with Clark, you can definitely feel him go more and more insane into the back rooms, especially later on when he and his interns start exploring, but they get trapped. And that's also when we start really figuring out. That's when we really start figuring out, at least for in Clark's sake, that there's something in this back rooms, and it is out to kill them. And I think and I would say for the movie's sake, the first part definitely is a fantastic setup and probably, in my opinion, the strongest part of this movie. Now we'll get into the second half. I yapped it a little bit too long there. The second half of the movie, Clark, after his first time coming out of backrooms, is he looks insane. He's disheveled. Well, he's insane. He's disheveled, and he goes back to Mary, and it's found out that Clark has been exploring the backrooms more and more and more, and he's been mapping everything out. And he tries to tell Mary, the only person that I guess would listen to him, but Mary kind of plays it off, tries to pass it off, and thinks that he's just insane. And this drives Clark to figure out. This drives Clark to take he and his interns to record their exploration into the backrooms, and this is where everything starts to ramp up. The two interns find the two interns follow Clark. The shenanigans happens. Uh, I mean, I always said it before, but spoiler alert: the interns die. Yeah, they're gone. They're gone. They're dead. And it's and it ends the kind of the first half ends on showing that Clark is lost in the backrooms, and it doesn't seem like he was able to escape. Cut to the last 40 minutes about of the movie, and Mary worries about Clark, and she tries to start figuring out what's going on. So she goes to the furniture store, and she eventually discovers the doorway. And eventually, when she walks around and tries to find Clark or tries to find out what happens, she finds a very cryptic wall that looks like it was drawn by a child, but it looks like it has depictions of an entity and sort of her memories into this backrooms. It shows how the backrooms is kind of a living thing that's meant to destroy you. Eventually, she finds Clark, but Clark's nuts. He's going insano style. He is off the deep end. He has dolphin dived into the deep end of the pool, and he kidnaps Mary and places her in this weird room that looks like a dining room. And later, and you see Clark starts to have a really deep monologue. He starts talking about what he thinks the Backrooms is. And I think this is a great monologue. I think this sets up more of the world building of the Backrooms. He gives out the theory to Mary that the Backrooms is alive. It tries to remember stuff in our world, but can't exactly remember correctly. So all these weird statues, people that he finds, they're all fake. They all have weird things going on. They're mostly humanoid, but the face is messed up, is blurred, or has more body parts, or looks decrepit. And in his monologue, he finally sits down at this dining room table where Mary is tied up on one end and Clark sits down with a knife. And he eventually starts going manic. He wants to replay the night that he got divorced with Barbara. And eventually, you find out way back at the beginning, they do this. Mary and Clark do this exercise beforehand, and you see Clark's anger and his unwillingness to blame himself for the problems and only blame the world. And this ties into later on at this weird dining room table where Clark he goes through that whole night again, and eventually Mary just spits right out at him. It's your fault. You're the reason why nobody likes you. You're the reason why you will be alone. And it looks like it's about to go nuts. Everything's going to come crashing down. Clark looks like he's about to murder someone. But then the main entity comes in, and it is a grotesque figure, kind of a grotesque, super tall image, mirror image of Clark and his insecurities and every of that sort. And later on, Mary, later on, Mary somehow convinces Clark to get her out of there. And this is sort of part of the problem was in the later half. I would say my only critique of this movie is that some of the dialogue and some of the decisions of Mary and Clark later on kind of feel weird, but overall I don't think it will affect the enjoyment. So anyway, Mary sees Clark getting manhandled, by the entity, and she escapes. Well, she tries to escape, and it's this whole chase scene. The entity's following her. You get to see more of the back rooms. You get to see more of the back rooms, more of the crazy stuff going on, and eventually it all comes around where she finds async, the kind of weird government private government company that's been studying the backrooms for however long. You would get more information about async through Kane Parsons' YouTube videos, and great I think it's a kind of great setup or a great come around of his YouTube videos and this movie and how connected Kane feels to this IP being the Backrooms. Anyway, Mary runs into Async, the company, and at the end of the movie, she's interviewed by the company and she definitely is out of it. She just wants to figure out what this is. And the movie ends off, I think, in a very poetic, very very cool note. That's which I won't spoil that for you. I think you should go watch it. Overall, I think definitely deserves the movie definitely deserves its praise and deserves a spot as one of the better movies that came out this year. That and Obsession. I think shows that there's a new wave of indie filmmakers that came out of YouTube that definitely showed that they have great directing chops. And Kane Pixel is one out of many that I think in the future will come to be fantastic. Overall, the movie is definitely 7.5 out of 10. I think that as a fan of the Backrooms or as a newcomer of the Backrooms, I think you will definitely enjoy the Backrooms. Its ambiance definitely is creepy. I think the theater is a great way to experience the Backrooms movie. So yeah, that's about it.